Washington Post columnist Marc Thiessen, Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today, and Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. We should point out the Washington Post first reported the Oval Office confrontation, apparently, between President Trump and the DNI McGuire. Let's start there on this story and what we make of it. It's breaking. Byron, you've talked to some people up on Capitol Hill.
Well, there's really two aspects to the story. There's whatever the president did, angrily or not, upon hearing the story, and then there's what the briefing actually consisted of. And apparently a lot of people from the Director of National Intelligence Office went to Capitol Hill. A lot of staff, or a lot of people, some Republicans felt it was kind of designed to leak. And reportedly, they tell the lawmakers that Russia is interfering in the 2020 election. What you don't see in any of these published accounts is what Russia is doing. There are no details at all about that, and members and anyone who was in the briefing, it was a classified briefing, they're not allowed to talk about it, but Republicans apparently were deeply skeptical. I mean, you could have a race between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, who spent his honeymoon in the Soviet Union, and they wonder, would Russia really prefer Trump over Sanders? So everything is very murky about what actually took place.
Yeah, and we're careful about this story. We have our reporting about what John just said, Susan. It is assumed, I think, that Russia was going to try to interfere in the 2020 election. They did, according to Jim Mattis, who told me in 2018, attempt to have an input in that election. What do you make of this?
Well, we have, I think, established with our intelligence agencies that they tried to meddle last time around. I think probably not a surprise.
Well, by the way, the president's leaving Air Force One as you're talking here. Go ahead.
Unrelated, though, to what I'm saying.
Yes. Right.
Really, that's not really connected. We've established that they meddled in 2016 and on behalf of President Trump. So I think not a big surprise that they're continuing. In fact, we've had repeated warnings that they have not stopped their efforts. Russia has not stopped its efforts to meddle in our election. But there are a few subjects on which President Trump is more sensitive than this one, because it's one of those controversies that goes to questions about how he won the White House the first time around.
Yeah, and he's very sensitive to that, obviously, after 2.5 years of the effort on Russia and the impeachment effort. As we're looking, he's in Colorado. He'll be doing a big campaign-style rally. Also, Colorado Senator, we should point out, Cory Gardner, up for re-election there. So he'll be at that rally as well. Mark.
I mean, he's absolutely right to be worried and upset, because it's like, here we go again. When the DNI came out with it, the intelligence community came out with its report on the 2016 election, they did say that the Russians interfered on behalf of Trump or supported Trump, but they said that their goal was to undermine confidence in our democratic process. It worked like a charm. We spent 2.5 years chasing this conspiracy theory that Donald Trump had colluded with Russia, millions of dollars, cloud hanging over his presidency, led to impeachment and this whole saga. And so, of course, the Russians are going to try it again. Why not? It worked the first time. So even if whether they want to impact the election in favor of Trump or in favor of Bernie, what they want to do is reduce confidence and cause chaos in our democracy. And it worked perfectly first time, and they want to try it again.
Susan,
of course,
what about the criticism? And we're going to talk about Rick Grinnell later and have a piece about him. But he's a loyalist for President Trump. He was a German ambassador. The president is entitled to have who he wants in these positions.
You know, I think the criticism is not that he's a loyalist, but that he's only a loyalist. He's a loyalist without the kind of background in intelligence matters that the previous people who have held that particular job have had. Of course, the president's entitled to have whoever he wants, but it's a question of what qualifications does he bring to this job other than being loyal to President Trump.
I mean, Porter Goss didn't have a lot of intel. Yeah, he was on the House committee, but
John Brennan was a loyalist to Barack Obama. Did anyone call John Brennan an Obama loyalist? He certainly was and still is.
He was in the intel community, to Susan's point. Yeah. Go ahead.
Prior actually to being ambassador to Germany, Grinnell's biggest connection was with John Bolton. He had been Bolton's spokesman at the...
It all comes full circle.
There you go.
It all comes full circle.
At the United Nations. But a lot of Republicans had been urging the president to clean out not only the National Security Council, but the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Not sure that Grinnell is actually going to do that, but that's going to be the hope for many Republicans.
All right, well, while we have the president here on the tarmac, let's talk about what he said today about Roger Stone. He says that he's going to stay out of this process. He's going to let it go forward. Kind of tipped his hat a little bit, Mark, about the potential of a pardon,
Sure.
but said that he believes that Stone could get exonerated if this retrial is ordered by the judge.
I think he got Barr's message to some extent. I wish he wouldn't say that I got Barr. I mean, I wish he wouldn't say I'm staying out of it and just stay out of it. That would be a lot better, especially because today, where did he give this statement? At a speech that was in front of a group of people who had benefited from criminal justice reform. His message of the day was, I'm helping African Americans restart their lives, people who've given them a second chance, and he completely stepped on that message. The media doesn't want to cover a bunch of African Americans saying good things about Donald Trump and how Donald Trump restarted their lives.
And they
want to cover Roger
did say
Stone.
a lot of that. There were a lot of speeches about that.
Yeah, but they want to cover Roger Stone. And so why is Donald Trump helping them focus on Roger Stone instead of focus on criminal justice reform and what he's doing for African Americans?
What about the Stone story, Susan?
Who wants to take my bet? I would take the side that Roger Stone will not spend a day in prison. Will anyone take that bet?
One day?
Not. Let's say not overnight. Okay.
Because the judge reorders the trial and it falls apart, or because of the pardon?
Possibly the legal process works out, but if that doesn't, I think he does have a safety net.
What is extraordinary about this is this 40-month sentence. Remember, the recommendation that got everybody so agitated was 87 to 108 months.
Which was the original prosecutor's recommendation that Attorney General Barr stepped in and said, whoa, this is too high.
Exactly.
And Washington blew its lid.
Crazy. And the Justice Department said, look, this 7 to 9 years is too much. Maybe 3 to 4 years is about right. They weren't saying Roger Stone should not go to jail. They were saying this was a draconian sentence recommendation. And now the judge has come out and basically said what the Justice Department, caught holy hell for recommending.
We should point out, though, that the prosecutors today, which is a new set of prosecutors, the 4 resigned, they send in a new set, they come in with stiff sentence as well. And then the judge sides really with Attorney General Barr with the 3 years, 4 months.
The judge actually said that the prosecutors were doing the right thing. They should recommend this, but it was up to the judge
to
judge what the sentence should be.
So 1, Barr was vindicated. 2, Trump should have stayed out of it, and he would have gotten the result without having tainted Barr or caused all of this chaos.
Well, maybe Barr should have stayed out of it too, because maybe the judge,
that's his job.
The Attorney General is not customarily way in to revisit sentencing recommendations, but maybe this is what the judge would have done.
There has been so much politicized prosecution in this case. I understand why Barr is trying to rein some of this in. The FBI sent false information to the FISA court, lied, doctored information. I understand why Barr is putting his finger on the scale and fixing things when he thinks people are going the wrong way.
And remember the amphibious military operation to arrest Roger Stone and all.
Right, extraordinary. With another network outside. Panel, thanks. We were going to talk about the debate. We'll do that in the second panel at the bottom of the show. All right, the U.S. is tightening the economic screws on Iran even harder tonight. Another round of sanctions is